Good afternoon, Marco.
Good afternoon, Bruno. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here on Via Romana YouTube channel for this interview.
I'm Marco de Brömmelstroet and I hold the chair of Urban Mobility Futures at the University of Amsterdam. There is now increasing pressure to rethink the position of our streets mainly. So it's now focusing really on the urban streets, so the streets where people actually live, and to see if we can use this momentum to give more space to pedestrians and cyclists on those streets. You see that there's a huge political struggle already happening. So one way to look at it is that 16 million people, 17 million people are now at home, but they all still have their car parked in front of their house. So there's already some pressure of the European industry especially to use this momentum to sell more cars to people. The car is sort of the individual self-protected cocoon that gives people personal mobility still, when especially the public transport system will not do that any longer. But at the same time, and that really happened almost today or yesterday, there is now finally also a radical movement that says, no, wait a minute, this is the moment that we can actually get rid of a lot of these negative effects of the mobility system that we had. So think of pollution, of noise. Many people now experience a much quieter city, but also safety. And actually the pleasure of having the streets again as these spaces as public space, basically. So we see now an increasing momentum to organize different groups of people to basically develop a true alternative for the mobility system. One is, don't expect change to now magically occur. It requires endurance, commitment, and consistency, and we need to go out on the streets and we need to keep fighting. The most important trigger for that, I think, for both stakeholders and policymakers, is to reconsider our worldview of what mobility is. Because if we don't do that, we are fighting the wrong fight. So let's say that we are embracing now cycling, but we still think that travel time is something that needs to be saved. We will end up with faster bikes, everybody in their own bicycle developed cocoon. So I think this is the moment that if you really want radical change, you instead focus on counting different things and making different things count. So for instance, don't talk about more space for cycling, but talk about more space for people. And instead of seeing the street as a place for vehicular flow, and now the cars go on, the bike can come in, this could also be the moment that we re-embrace the street as public space. So I think the key advice that I would give is let's be reflective on the goals that we want to achieve and the means that we use to do it. So if we do an experiment, do not only count the number of people that switch from one mode to the other, but also count the amount of smiles, the amount of people that linger on the streets, and the amount of children that play. Use this change of your habits to also change your focus on what matters. So instead of going on a bike and thinking how fast or slow it is, instead use this moment to engage with your body and your senses. Because now you're on a bike maybe for the first time or since long. Really use that to experience what this does with your brain, with the things that you're thinking about, with the way that you engage with your environment. And I think then you can find true meaning in this change. So it's not only a change of modes of mobility, it can actually be a change of the way that you live.
Thank you, Marco, for your time. We're very happy to have you with Via Romana today, and hopefully this message will be heard not only in France, but also across the world. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.